You notice it in the shower drain first. You're 23. This wasn't supposed to happen yet. But your body actually started this years before you noticed. And the hormone responsible is also the reason your beard grows in thicker. Same hormone, opposite effect. By the end of this video, you'll understand how two people with identical testosterone levels can end up looking completely different by 30. One with a full head of hair, one without. Same hormone level, totally different outcome. Here's why. Your body converts testosterone into a much stronger hormone called DHT. In your jaw and chest, DHT builds hair. On certain follicles on your scalp, it does the opposite. It shrinks them. Researchers call this the androgen paradox, and nobody has fully solved why one hormone can do both. What they do know is your scalp follicles and your jaw follicles are wired differently at the genetic level. Same signal, different instructions. Now here's where it gets personal. Why you? Why 20 when your dad didn't start losing hair until 40? It's not just genetics, it's more specific than that. Researchers have traced much of the inherited risk to a single gene sitting on the X chromosome. That means it can come from your mother's side just as easily as your father's. Two brothers can grow up with the exact same testosterone levels, and one goes bald a decade before the other, because his receptors are simply better at listening to DHT than his brother's are. Your hormones don't have to be abnormal for this to happen. Your follicles just have to be unusually responsive. So how common is this actually? More than you'd think. Estimates put the number of people affected worldwide somewhere between 1 and 1.5 billion. Up to 80% of men of European descent will show some degree of it by 70. You didn't draw some rare unlucky card. Statistically, you're closer to the rule than the exception. But genetics alone doesn't explain your timeline. Something else is turning up the speed. Picture a photocopier. You copy a picture, then copy the copy, then copy that copy again. Every generation loses a little detail until what's left barely resembles the original. That's what a shrinking follicle is doing, cycle after cycle, quietly for years. Stress speeds up the copier. Cortisol pushes follicles out of their growth phase early. Bad sleep disrupts the repair signals your body sends overnight. Low iron or protein starves the follicle of the raw material it needs to build hair at all. None of these cause the condition, but if the genetic switch is already flipped, all three make the copier run faster. Here's the part that should genuinely unsettle you. By the time you can actually see thinning in the mirror, a lot of the affected hairs have already lost close to half their original thickness underneath the surface. What you're seeing isn't the beginning of the story, it's closer to the reveal. And it isn't only hormones doing this. Around balding follicles, researchers have found low-grade inflammation, immune cells clustering in and releasing signals that speed the shrinking further. Left alone long enough, that inflammation can tip a follicle from temporarily shrinking into permanently scarred. That line is the whole game, reversible or not. Dermatologists actually stage this the same way you'd stage any progressive condition. Early stages mean the window's still wide open. Later stages mean most of it already closed. Most people never check which side they're on. They just wait and hope until waiting stops being an option. So, what actually works? Most people are treating the wrong problem, chasing shampoos and gummies when only two things on the market carry real, repeated clinical evidence. Just two. The first is Minoxidil, and its origin story is almost an accident. It was a blood pressure medication. Researchers noticed a strange side effect in patients: unwanted hair growth. Someone connected the dots, applied it to the scalp, and found it kept follicles in their growth phase longer. It doesn't touch DHT at all, it just outlasts it. The second goes straight for the source. Finasteride blocks the enzyme that converts testosterone into DHT in the first place. Less conversion, less DHT reaching the follicle, less signal telling it to shrink. Decades of research back it, and in a lot of users, it brings back real density in follicles that hadn't fully died yet. It's also a prescription drug with real potential side effects. Step 1 is an actual conversation with a dermatologist, not a video. Everything else? Microneedling shows promise mostly as a booster alongside Minoxidil, not alone. Certain shampoos help a little. Biotin gummies, rosemary oil, caffeine shampoos, thin evidence at best. Not harmful, just not strong enough to out-argue a genetic hormone pathway with years of momentum. Here's the part nobody wants to hear. Both real treatments only work while you're using them. Stop, and the follicles tend to drift back toward wherever they were heading. That scares people out of starting at all. But it's the wrong question. The real question isn't, will I have to do this forever? It's, what am I actually buying? Every year you keep a follicle active is a year it doesn't cross into permanent dormancy. Even if you eventually stop or switch approaches, the follicles you protected now are follicles you still have options for later. The scary part about hair loss was never that your genes decide everything. It's that by the time you realize they're winning, you've already spent years giving them a head start. You notice the extra strands today. The follicles you save right now aren't just hair, they're options. And options disappear quietly.